From the Middle is a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode number 241 of From the Middle. We are three middle-class guys living in the middle of America in the middle chapters of our lives with points of view somewhere in the middle, like the newest Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, who are smack dab in the middle of the country. In this episode, we talk about all things Super Bowl, the halftime show, the game itself, and the commercials. We talk a little bit about 3D printing. A podcast, a huge, very important, hilarious podcast is ending. And we talk a lot about some of the great stuff we're watching at the end of this episode. You're going to love the whole thing. It runs a little long, but boy, are you going to enjoy every minute of it. Check it out.
New boot goofing.
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
From the Middle after dark over here.
Now, because of like wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff, when we record this, isn't the exact same moment that people are listening.
What?
Not live. I know that's going to be startling.
That's what you said 2 days ago, Dylan.
That is going to be shocking information for some people listening. If you happen to be listening on the day this comes out, albeit not live, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. And to my co-hosts, Corey and Kendall. How you guys doing?
You could have just said happy Valentine's Day, but
I wanted to take it further.
I appreciate that you took it further. I'm explaining the joke in appreciation.
And if I wanted, I'll be canceled now. No one listens, so I can't be canceled. But if we wanted to go back to our roots for some good 90s humor,
yeah,
I could say, what up, guys? Happy Valentine's Day. Because we made dumb jokes like that in the 90s.
All right.
That's where we are. That joke was all that in a bag of potato chips. Speaking of the 90s. How you guys doing? You doing good?
Good. It was good to see your smiling faces. And
yeah, we're all looking manly with our two of us have flannels on and dark colored hats, and Dylan is over there is rocking the all black on black situation.
It's actually gray.
Oh, okay.
It's actually dark gray, but it kind of looks black in the camera, which is fine. It matches my Captain America hat.
And letting that beard grow, I see.
Yeah, pure laziness on my part. Not by design, just by pure.
How do you shave? What do you use to shave, Dylan?
I don't. The cheap stuff that I'm not supposed to use. When you see commercials talking down to men about crappy razors, they're talking down to me. Is what
are you talking? Are you talking about like a bag of disposable Bics?
Yeah, probably. I don't even know if I know what brand they are. It's like It used to just be like when I was younger and poorer. It was like you'd get 37 razors that were all like, the same durability of like a plastic pen.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, so you
get like a sack of 50
now.
Of them.
Yeah, you get 74 in a case for like $5.99. Now it's like I get 5 in a box for like probably $8, and that's that's me really upgrading in my life. Like Corey drinking Starbucks or you having whatever fancy pen you have in your pocket. It's like that. So it's still not nice. All the commercials are they're talking down to me. If you want to know who they're trying to sell to, they might as well just be saying, Dylan, come on.
Don't be a Dylan.
Don't be a Dylan. Get it together.
Get a Gillette Mach 90.
You need to buy a real razor for a real man, or you need to go flip open a knife and just scrape it down your cheek, because that's what men do.
Yeah.
So I buy cheap ones. I don't know. I don't even know what brand they are.
Okay, I was just curious.
I thought you were going to say that Bree plucks you out of the grass and just blows on your face and it just flies off.
That too. If I don't feel like pulling one of the cheap razors, she can just.
And then in terms of the shaving cream, I was one of those guys that to save money used like cheap conditioners, like hair conditioners, instead of shaving cream, because that works just as well, if not better. In fact, you would be able to see what you were doing a little better because such foamy foams cover your whole face and you can't really see what you're doing, but the conditioners stay translucent and you can kind of see what you're doing.
If only we had known about Artiest Man.
I know.
So long ago, our dear friends at Artiest Man.
Let's plug them at the top, by the way. Go to artiestman.com. That's ARTIUSMAN.com. Use promo code The Middle, all one word, all caps, The Middle, as the promo code at checkout. It's not as long as that DoorDash one during the Super Bowl. It's just The Middle. That'll get you 25% off of your first order. It'll help you. It'll help them. It'll help us. It's a triple win situation, and their scents are freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Deed-a-roo.
They have all kinds of great stuff. I'm slowly watching their training videos from their website to help me be more of a man. So thanks, Artiest Man, and thank you for your videos.
We sure love Jeff over there. He's a great guy. We've had him on the podcast. It's a good time. Speaking of Super Bowl, did you guys partake? What were your thoughts on both the game and secondly the advertisements?
Yeah, I actually started the morning by explaining to my daughter what we would be doing that last night. So I was explaining, she's seen a little bit of local high school football. She's watched the Buckeyes, obviously, in college football. So I'm explaining there are people that like watching the Super Bowl for different reasons. There's the football, there's the commercials, there's the halftime show, or maybe a combination in thereof. And you can pick any of those and sit and watch for any of those reasons. But it's really the only time Americans get excited about commercials is during the Super Bowl. And so she had to watch a little bit as well. I'm a little sad I didn't turn to the Nickelodeon coverage of the Super Bowl, which turns out was hilarious. But I'm the type that I was watching for all the reasons. I like the commercials. I like the halftime show. And I like the football game. And it's nice when the halftime shows really start catering to your generation vis-a-vis our generation, because it's not like bands we've never heard of anymore. It's like, it's Usher. It's for us. Like we're the demographic now. So that was really cool. I was excited to see Usher, Alicia Keys, all kind of Ludacris, longtime friend of the show. Ludacris was out there, and it was great. It was rizful. I didn't use that right, but I tried to work in it. So
that was out of pocket.
Great.
Ludacris was awesome. It was so good to see him up there. Yeah, I had more thoughts, but my mind just went blank. I think you sent a clip earlier of the Nickelodeon, SpongeBob and Patrick coverage, and that I think for the game part that would have been more fun. And at one point, Sherry said we should flip to the Nickelodeon cast simulcast, and that would have been more fun. I think
I lost it. One of the clips that I think I sent over, somebody fumbled it, and they play a snippet of Patrick Star saying "firmly grasp it," which just was flawless execution by the soundboard guys. So well done. Yeah, it was a really good game. A little slow to start, but great defense. Great defenses overall. Pretty good offenses overall. Like there were some mistakes, but like it makes it more fun. Like nobody wants to see a blowout, at that point. Like you want it to be a good game regardless of who you're rooting for. So I thought the game was good. I thought the commercials were solid. I thought the halftime show was solid, and the national anthem and the songs before, and Post Malone doing America the Beautiful, I thought was good.
That was wonderful, wasn't it?
It's a nice rendition. Reba did a nice job for the national anthem. That was Andra Day. She did a song as well. So yeah, I thought good mix of music, and good commercials. I know there were some particular favorites we can talk about too, but yeah, I thought it was really nice. It was nice to have like no major controversy. It was just a good game, good commercials, good show. I think if you would say like sometimes like the halftime show can get a little gross or raunchy. What Usher took his tank top off for like 10 seconds. Was that about it?
I was there. I
Yeah,
was
he
there
went
for
shirtless
it.
for a while. I mean, it depends on what eye you're looking at it with, but
Yeah.
so I mean, there were ladies dancing on poles and that kind of thing, which I understand that today is just aerobics.
Yeah. Yeah. That happens. That happens at the gym.
But
The local gym. Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I can see. So I watched. Our church does a Super Bowl party where we do potluck and like a giant 12-foot screen, and then we all go home at halftime. Like it's perfect. So if you want to watch the game, you can. It's there. It's huge. You can't hear a whole lot because people are playing cards and board games and stuff, and otherwise conversing in a gymatorium, which is loud and echoey, which is fine. But you can still watch the game, and then at halftime you tear it down. There's enough people there to make cleanup real fast, and then you head home. And I watched the second half on my couch, and it was a good experience. Now, what that means is that like I had to watch the halftime show today. Like I had to look it up on YouTube. I had to look up the commercials and watch the commercials this morning. As of when we're recording this. And so I still got to enjoy all of the things thanks to the YouTubes. And I watched a game, which I'm actually interested in the game. That's the most interesting part to me is the football game itself. And it was a good one. I was cheering for the Chiefs for really no good reason, just because a few years ago I decided I was going to like Patrick Mahomes and probably told somebody at one point in time that I agreed with somebody else who was smart, who had said that like if there's a new challenger to become the next Tom Brady, this is the guy who's it. And so at that point I was like, yeah, and I like the guy. So so I decided to root for Patrick Mahomes then, and I just keep going. I've never quite understood. I don't do the if it's not my team and they've won a championship too many times recently, I want them to lose. I don't understand that thinking. I know that people have that thinking. I'm not against people having that thinking. I just don't share that sentiment. So I'm cool with the Chiefs winning it again. As a matter of fact, I would like the idea of watching them do a three-peat because that's never been done before. That'd be fun to see. But I enjoyed the game because I was rooting for Kansas City. It was something of a nerve-wracking game because they had to come back late in the fourth quarter to tie. They made a decision at the end to tie it instead of go for it. They could have easily tried to go for it and win. And then overtime is what it was. Something like 6 seconds left on the clock for the winning touchdown pass. It had great storyline. Great storyline.
Yeah.
Loved it.
So in regards to the not rooting for the team that hasn't won lately, do you never find yourself rooting for the underdog just because like, this team hasn't made the college
I root for the
playoff
underdog a lot. That's often in moments where I have to find out a reason to root for a team.
Yeah.
Underdog is often the reason I find to root for a team.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's like usually the order of operations is like, is it my team? No, it's never my team in the NFL. Is it a team that I really like or hate? In this case, it was no to both questions. And then it goes on to usually like how many former Buckeyes are on the roster because I'm an Ohio State fan. And if you like or dislike the Buckeyes or Michigan or whoever team, doesn't matter. If your team, college team, has people on the roster playing and winning trophies, all of those things just help recruiting. It just does. So like the 49ers had two Buckeyes, Nick Bosa and Chase Young. The Chiefs didn't. So I was leaning towards the 49ers, but I didn't really care. Like
Yeah.
the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce storyline has been amusing this year. So it's like good for them if he wins. Like if the Chiefs win and Patrick Mahomes win, good for them. It wasn't a big deal either way. So it was like I was leaning 49ers the whole night. But I didn't really, the Kyle Shanahan, like, oh shucks, I hope this poor off the streets Kyle Shanahan can win a Super Bowl like his dad. Like that really wasn't as compelling of a story to me. Like, I hope the golden child can get his own gold, the Brock Purdy storyline was nice. Seeing Andy Reid going from, the
Andy Reid is hard to root against, isn't he?
To the Chiefs, right. He's just like, that he just like went back to his hotel and like ordered a room service hot dog before he went to bed.
Exactly.
And you love him for it. Like, I'll just send up a Diet Coke and a plain hot dog,
You don't want champagne and celebrate, Coach? No, I think a Diet Coke sounds just about right.
This is past my bedtime. I gotta go. And then like a glass of warm milk after his hot dog was done. And so it's hard not to root for.
So speaking of college players in the Super Bowl, Michigan great Jake Moody, kicker for the 49ers, had the record for longest Super Bowl field goal for about 1 hour.
Yes.
Anyway, so congratulations to him.
Yeah, there were a lot of interesting storylines like that, and I'm with you guys. It's hard sometimes when you don't really care which team wins, how thin the argument needs to be for you to go,
exactly.
I'm going for them. Like 49ers, 49's close to 50. 50. I once had a favorite NASCAR driver who's number 50, and they have red in their logo, and I'm a Buckeye fan. So, let's go to 49ers.
Exactly, yeah.
People have lots of flippant reasons to pick. We get to March Madness, it comes down to primary jersey color.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I'm going to root for the blue teams and not the red teams.
Or sometimes I'll just because I have to like pick somebody to root for to make a game interesting, but it's really easy for me to find a dumb reason to find somebody to root for. Yeah. Sometimes if I can't come up with a convoluted reason, I'll just watch for about 5 minutes, wait for somebody to do something that pisses me off, and then root against them. Like that's sometimes it's that. Or I'll see a guy like help somebody up, and I'm like, you know what? That was really sportsmanlike. I'm going to root for you.
This is my team tonight. This is my team.
Yeah.
So
I identify with that.
I'm with Dylan's third tier of his order of operations with 2 Buckeyes on the 49ers. There was also this like trail of thinking that, I don't watch a lot of NFL, but we've talked about how I am a third generation Bengals fan. The only 2 times that the Bengals had been to the Super Bowl prior to last season, or was that 2 years ago now? Jeez.
2 years ago.
2 years ago now, was against the 49ers in the Montana days, and the 49ers beat them both times. So I'm like, is this one of those, like, it makes former Bengals teams look better if that franchise wins again?
or are you pissed off at the 49ers and you don't want them to
win? You don't want them to win. But then I was like, I watched a little bit of the quarterback docuseries on Netflix, and am not a Mahomes fan because I find him just, I don't know. So I was like, for that reason, I'm going 49ers.
Sometimes the reason is as simple as your checking account in DraftKings. And
that's a good point.
That helps you decide who to root for. So
that's a lot of people. As somebody who has bet on sports before, that absolutely gives you a reason to root or not root for somebody. And it almost doesn't. All of the other things at that point go clear out the window.
Yep. It's like my grandma is on that team, but I'm not rooting for that one.
That's right.
So we're not a political podcast, but Dylan, you said earlier that there wasn't a ton of controversy, but we human beings like to find ways to create controversy, and this is the only thing I saw, and then we can get into our favorite commercials. So have those.
Sure. Yeah, let's dissect that. Yeah.
So Andra Day sang "Lift Every Voice and Sing" before the game. Mm-hmm. But this was only on the YouTube TV telecast, from what I understand. It was not on
That's not true.
Okay. I missed it somehow, right? In the lead up. So
it was like 20 minutes before the game.
Oh, okay.
Maybe but it was still on the broadcast.
It was right before the other songs.
Okay. So one of our local Columbus news stations was posting photos for every person that sang and just writing, what did you think of Post Malone's version of America the Beautiful? What did you think of Andra Day's version of Lift Every Voice and Sing? What did you think of, right? So on the Andra Day one, people are like, one anthem. Like that somehow Black America with this precious to them hymn is somehow competing for now. We don't need two anthems. There's one anthem. And I'm just like, shake my head. Y'all will find a way to create an argument where there's not an argument. It's just, she's just singing a song as a it didn't need to be a whole political thing. Why are we getting, oh my gosh, it was so frustrating.
You can blame the media and some media type people and that were floating around this. Often, every time the song was referenced with certain audiences, it was often referred to as the Black National Anthem. So they were purposefully repeating it with that phrase to get, by who's posting it, that what they're trying to do by saying it that way. All they had to say was, "Here's the song lineup before the game."
Well,
but
okay, except for a couple things. Like, one is, I agree. I don't care what songs. It really doesn't matter to me. However, to act like they just pulled a song out of the ether and said we're going to throw that. No, it's because it's often known as the Black National Anthem. That is perfectly appropriate to point that out. Like that is why.
But that's not its formal name, though. Is the point?
Just right.
America the Beautiful isn't the national anthem part 2.
Right.
It's just another patriotic song.
I'm saying it's appropriate to tell people, hey, for your entire life up until like the last couple of years, this song hasn't been included with these other songs. It's appropriate for us to inform you as to why this song is being included with these other songs for this event. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think that's perfectly fine to tell people why the song is there, and then let them come to their own conclusions. And quite frankly, I don't care for the debate about it at all. And quite frankly, I don't care that the song was there. So,
yeah, same. It doesn't really matter. They could have performed 10 different patriotic and meaningful songs before. They played several in a row, as far as I'm concerned, and they finished with the national anthem.
Yeah,
and that's just how it went down. My point was, when certain people are retweeting it, they know, and it's worded in a way with the rest of their tweet or whatever. They know what they're trying to do, and they're trying to rile people up about it. As my point. If you're just stating it if you're really just trying to state it like a fact, it really wasn't even worth noting that it is sometimes like it's referred to. It didn't really matter. They could have said Lift Every Voice, America the Beautiful, the American National Anthem, the end. That was my point. They could have just listed the songs, but some people were purposely doing that just to tick some people off. The funny thing is, it's really easy to tick 10 people off on Twitter, regardless of what you choose to say or do.
That's true.
It was really probably a total of 10 people on Twitter that were actually offended, or 10 people on Facebook. Anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I thought they were nice. I thought they all did a nice job. I thought it was nice that they did the American Sign Language. I'm surprised. Never mind. I thought it was really nice that each song had a different American Sign Language person to like cover that different song, and I just thought that was a cool element of the presentation, just to make sure there's that extra piece for folks that need that kind of service. So yeah, I thought it was really-
and I feel like that's become like a pretty legitimate art form in and of itself too. I don't know. I think like COVID is when I started to realize that, when like you've got DeWine up there, and he had his daily press briefings during the early parts of COVID, and Ohio governor, and he always had the ASL interpreter, and it made me realize how more mainstream that service has gotten, which is fine, which is good. I appreciate. But then the art form of sort of like singing with it is cool to watch.
Yeah, and it almost becomes interpretive dance because they're like doing it with feeling, and it's like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's funny that I don't know what I was watching that was talking about that, but that they were talking about how that's really what defines somebody who's very good at signing versus somebody who maybe is more introductory, is especially with music, if you're getting into the beat and it's almost sort of acting out the signs more, it adds to that what feels like performance aspect, just adds to the nature of like if somebody is singing but they're singing very angrily and you can get across anger with signing, and then it shifts to a really depressed tone and you can start signing much more depressed. That's what really makes like the excellent like the difference between the excellent and more introductory at that service. So that's kind of cool.
I wonder too about some of the more like music theory, like how would it apply, and does it already? Do they think about these things? So I'm thinking like there's like classically trained musicians, like there's fundamental ways of doing things and things like that. And I feel like for sign language interpreters for music, if they think about like phrasing, like like they have to know the song and they have to know that like this word is going to be drawn out for so many bars, and so you have to draw that out and make that last for so many bars so that you don't find yourself just like standing there swaying, right? Like practice in that way and like memorize phrases and things of that nature. I wonder if it gets that deep. I bet you it does.
That's interesting. I'm really liking that.
And on a really long guitar solo, can you do an air guitar?
Oh yeah.
Does that add to like the drama if they do like an air guitar? That's an actual question. I'm right joking.
I think they should.
Or they're like the ASL equivalent of brackets, and then in those brackets you would sign guitar solo.
There you go. You go. Oh man. And then like if this keeps evolving, like what's the punk rock ASL gonna look like?
So many questions.
Is there gonna be like a rebellion phase? And
now that we've touched on Black national anthems and ASL, let's talk about favorite commercials.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this wasn't really a commercial, but since it was at the beginning, I'm going to start with it. When they did in that, we've talked about the Vegas sphere before. When they did the My Way, they started My Way inside the sphere, and then they had somebody talking about both teams and like sort of their build up to get there. And then the players talking about like people always said, you're never going to be able to do this and do that or play that way or this way. Like, obviously, I'm a Sinatra guy, but there's the whole tie of like Sinatra, Rat Pack, Vegas, tying it into the theme of what the players had gone through. And then in the sphere, like this, then you've got this sort of like the simplicity of what was the song and the era through this like technological wonder of the sphere and bringing it all together through an orchestra. And it was just all of it. I thought all of it was super freaking cool. So not a commercial, but I loved everything about how they did all of that. I thought it was super well done, and I loved it.
Man, I didn't think to go back and try to rewatch that. I need to do that now.
Yeah,
we didn't watch. I'm not going to have many thoughts on the lead up. That's just why I missed the Andra Day song, because we jumped right over to basically kickoff. We didn't watch a lot of pregame stuff.
Yeah. I think the My Way and the songs were all probably within the last half an hour before kickoff. Okay. So you were probably close and just missed it. But if you didn't, go on YouTube and check out the Super Bowl My Way. It was really, again, it's not even technically commercial. It was part of the programming. It was just a ramp up to the game and the on-field
I
stuff.
love it's not a hype video, but it's like it's a hype for the event, I guess. It's like the super well produced segment that like before every big game, or even college football games, or at the beginning of college game day on Saturdays, it's like it all comes down to those type sort of things. They do Formula One races every week, and they focus on the city or what makes that track unique, or historical crashes that have happened on the same track. And yeah, I love that stuff.
It's cool. So commercials, I think I feel like my top two is going to be like everyone else's top two. And I don't know what order to put them in, but one of them is the Dun Kings commercial with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. That was amazing. A sequel to the previous year's commercial. And what astounds me on some of these is like the sheer firepower that companies are able to get to celebrities. Like we're gonna rapid fire like J-Lo and Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and Tom freaking Brady. We're gonna put them all into one 30-second slot in front of your eyeballs. And it's jaw, like that alone is jaw dropping. But then it was a funny commercial. And then the one that I probably liked a little bit better than that was the Paramount Plus commercial where you had Sir Patrick Stewart, and a bunch of characters and hosts from that can be found on the Paramount Plus network streaming service, whatever. And Creed randomly shows up in the background playing a song like, and Creed's here. And then the flamboyant cop from We Know 911 bends over and he has a Creed tramp stamp. It's
Lieutenant Dangle.
Lieutenant Dangle, that's right. You know, unrelated to Lieutenant Dangle specifically, just there was a kid, maybe 18, 19 years old from our church who shows up wearing shorts and cowboy boots. And I told him immediately that I appreciated what he was doing. And I don't know what you're doing, but I appreciate whatever it is. And then like he had his girlfriend with him and she is like rolling her eyes and he's like, thank you. She doesn't get it. And I'm like, I get it.
This is the third time in a week that Lieutenant Dangle and the scene with him with his new boots and the phrase new boot goofin has come up in my sphere, and I don't know what's going on, but new boot it started with Dylan sending a gif or a clip of Dangle with his new boots, and then I replied, new boot goofin might be the greatest 3 words ever put together. And then was it a day later, Dylan? Keep me honest.
Yeah.
A day later, I'm driving into my neighborhood between the restaurants there. You guys know where I live. And I'm following a car with new boot goofin as a bumper sticker a day later. And I'm like, that's such an obscure. And then for him to be in a commercial and for us to bring it up right now.
When you text me about the bumper sticker, I'm like, that has to be one of the most random references ever put on a bumper sticker. Because it's like this little snippet of a show that's not even that popular from one character
in a cable program that not everyone is aware of.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, if you ask 20 people about Reno 911, 2 or 3 might know about it. And then to have just one line of his from however many seasons from one character. And it's not even like the show's about 1 or 2 characters. It's an ensemble of like 10 people. And so he's like one character that that was so funny.
Can we please call this episode New Boot Goofin?
New Boot Goofin at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Was there any other commercials, Kendall?
No, those were the tops.
All right, I thought a good millennial callback, Michael Cera, having Michael Cera on the CeraVe commercial. I thought that was really good.
I found that one creepy. Am I supposed to find that one creepy?
I think so. He's kind of weird and creepy. Like he's supposed to unsettle you in a kind of a way, and I think he does that.
I was unsettled
in a way that Gen Z looks at horror films in a similar sort of way.
Yeah.
I thought did you guys see the Disney Plus commercial with the white background and just the quotes? Oh, God.
Listen, if you missed that one, it's a white background with the same font that's used in screenplays and in script writing.
Yep.
And it's just the quotes. It's just the quotes from popular Disney Plus Marvel, Disney, Pixar, all of
Star
them.
Wars, classic stuff.
Black text on a white field, but here's your mind was filling in the blanks and your mind was imagining the movie that it's from and the scene that it's from. And then all they do at the end is the Disney Plus logo. And you're like, oh, I mean,
I mean,
they don't even need to put images on there because they know exactly what they're doing.
It was iconic. It would say like to infinity and beyond. Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. Stuff like that. And you just instantly, your mind puts the scene in front of you because you know what, or the character or the whatever. So good. I thought the Disney Plus commercial was awesome. We've talked a lot about Ted Lasso and a little bit about soccer. I like the Messi commercial with Jason Sudeikis for Michelob Ultra.
And Dan Marino.
Dan Marino was in there. He threw the ball back to the beach. That was another one. There was like 3 or 4 celebrity deep on that one. I really like that. And then I wanted to ask this too. I didn't notice this last year with the Super Bowl. Do you feel like they were using live during the game? Do you feel like they were using a lot more rotating camera shots? I don't think they were drones. I think they were just but like while a play was going, they would like start moving a camera around, or they'd have a better replay of it than with different camera angles and like pans that they wouldn't normally have. Was that last year? Was that through this season? Or am I just noticing it? Was this like maybe new for the Super Bowl?
Remember reading something about there was some kind of boast about how many cameras they were going to have for the Super Bowl this year.
It was,
and so I think that it was special to this, but I mean that's the best insight I can give you.
I'm gonna say this with absolutely no skin in the game. That was money well spent. Like it wasn't my spared no expense from Jurassic Park, but like that was I noticed it. I noticed it several times and thought that's a really great shot. Or like, man, they really nailed capturing the play because the camera moved in a way that I've not noticed. You kind of know what camera angles to expect. It's the over, it's the this, it's the this, it's the this. And they were just moving the cameras in ways that I'd not noticed. So I wanted to mention that. I don't know if anybody else saw it. I feel like I need to go on YouTube.
Are you talking about the shots like after they score a touchdown that will like zoom in real close on the celebration and then pan 180 degrees? And it's like a shallow depth of field. Because we talked about that back in season whatever of our podcast, the new cameras they were using on.
I don't want to actually, I shouldn't say no. I don't want to say no because maybe that's one of them. But I feel like that wasn't just it. It happened several times, even during a play, not during a replay. Like they were able to, like, you had your normal sideline shot and they started to run one way. And then it's like a camera over here took over and then curved with the run or something. Like it was just, I noticed they were doing stuff with cameras that I've never picked up on.
I wonder if maybe they're getting better at using the sky cam that the stadiums have these days.
Maybe the sky cam, or I figured it didn't feel like drone, but maybe they had several people operating drones for footage. Low
well, the sky cam is on a cable system.
I know those are wires.
Yeah.
So I didn't know.
And that has almost unlimited mobility.
Yeah.
Well, because of the way they have it set up. They by rule though keep it behind the play.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was wondering, because I'm like, a drone could be high enough that they wouldn't really hear it and could have a zoomed in shot. Because how are they getting, like, it felt like they were getting, you see it when you watch behind the scenes. They'll have like a camera on a little bit of like rail track and it curves around really smoothly. It was stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. If you noticed it, let me know in the comments or message us. I'll try to find a video.
I also wonder too, like if they have some kind of like one of those fancy setups where they have like so much camera coverage that they can essentially drag a field and
maybe
and do a 360 almost situation.
A quick Google search revealed that 165 Sony cameras powered the Super Bowl, which is a record number of cameras. different capabilities, different levels of features for each, I'm sure. But 165 cameras, including lots of 4K cameras, as well as those shallow depth of field cameras that I was talking about. I commented to the kids at one point during the game because I noticed that where like it usually during a Super Bowl or a touchdown celebration or something, they'll zoom in onto the scorer and it's so right up on them, but right behind them is fuzzy, so that stuff's out of focus, and it just makes the in focus stuff look even more in focus. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Any more commercials, Dylan, before I share just a couple of mine and we'll get to our break?
No, that was it.
Mine were easy. I just thought that the walk-in Christopher Walken commercial was great, only because doing a Christopher Walken impression is like one of the easier impressions. It's kind of like everybody has an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, which was funny because they had a spoof on his speech as well. But like the whole Christopher Walken thing and him kind of going, yeah. No, I get it. Like when people are impersonating him. And then it was all about everything else is just an impersonation or whatever. Thought that was great. The Disney Plus one as well. And then the DoorDash. I feel like I have to know, was that promo code, that super long promo code that went on and on and on and around the room, and like, was that a real promo code? Probably has to be, much like a URL. Even if you mention a website in jest, you have to like buy that domain name. Like, was that a real promo code? And who and how many people? I'd love to see the analytics went to the painstaking level of effort to like pause and type all of that out as a promo code. And what did you get? I would be fascinated to know. I'm sure there's articles online. And maybe a more controversial one, those He Gets Us commercials. I don't know what to think of those. I feel like in some ways they're probably really good and they get a lot of conversation started. And then in other ways, I'm like, I'm not sure who's behind those. I'm excited to learn more. Author and speaker Bob Goff had the creator on his podcast to talk about those He Gets Us advertisements, and I can't wait. It's in my queue. I can't wait to listen to it and hear some of the thought process behind them. If their goal is to start conversations, I love it. If their goal is like sound theology, I don't know how I feel about it. So I don't know enough to know, but I want to learn more because they're certainly intriguing. And that if that's their goal, they do that. So all right, it feels like a good spot to take a break and hear from some fresh up past me. Bye.
We interrupt this program to bring you a news blast.
Michael Jackson's ghost seen at a Yankees game.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, now with a shrimp in every bite.
Lil Uzi Vert's head diamond has been sold on the dark web.
Stories like this and more can be found at the Ever Trending Story, a podcast where we peruse the news and write a fun fictional story for you.
Find us wherever you download podcasts and follow us on the socials at Ever Trending Pod, and we are proud members of the Odd Pods Media Network.
And we're back. So those were our thoughts on the Super Bowl. Anything else on that?
Man, no, I think I was just trying to look up some more information on the cameras. They did use at least 3 drones. There were sky cams, fly cams, AR cams, cameras embedded in the pylons, robotic cameras, quote, doink cameras embedded inside the uprights.
Yeah, in the uprights.
Cameras with 4K zoom extraction capability, depth of field cameras. So, yeah, they have a lot. They have a lot of different ones. But I don't think so. I think that's it. Otherwise, it's just a lot of things we're watching, I think, past the Super Bowl. Speaking
of things that you're watching, if you're joining us on YouTube for this episode, Kendall is currently frozen because his power just went out. So it's Dylan and I until we get him back. Speaking of new technology, Dylan, I'm really interested in your thoughts on this because I feel like being the geeks and lover of toys and action figures that we are, where are you with 3D printing? Is this something that you've thought, I need to invest $250 and get myself a little 3D printer so I can start making my own toys, action figures, etc.? Are you like, I'll wait a little bit longer until it becomes a little more affordable because the filament is pretty expensive and some of the creations are still a little pixely. I'd like to wait until it gets a little more high fidelity. We've never talked about this. And I feel like me personally, as a person who likes to create and make things. And if you look behind me on YouTube, I've got toys and gadgets and action figures. Where are you with it? Have you thought about it? Have you priced them out? I would love your thoughts. We've never talked about this.
We haven't, and I feel like 3D printer is like, if there is the Venn diagram of our interests, like 3D printer is smack dab in the middle of both of us. So like, it feels like something we should have talked about. I think about it pretty frequently. I haven't priced them out in a long time. I know the finishing effects are getting there a lot better than a year ago, 2 years ago, even from the outside looking in. Somebody with insider knowledge might be like, let me tell you why you're an idiot. But like, from my point of view, the things that I see created are looking way better than the last couple of years. I am intrigued because of the nature of file sharing within the community, like how many people will create a cool thing and then totally for free just say, here's the file to go plug that in and make it yourself. That's really fascinating because I may not have the design capability, like at least to start. But if other people do, and I'm just doing it for a little bit of fun on the side, it would be so easy for me to download file, put it in, hit play. That's really interesting to me. I've had ideas for like, every now and then you have the sort of those weird ideas you'll probably never do or start, but you think about them. I've had like some toy ideas. Like, what if I feel like this toy could be a thing? Well, it would be really easy to make a prototype toy now with a 3D printer to pass along as part of a pitch, like to a toy maker, versus 20 years ago, where you would have had to go to a company who could make a mold, who could do whatever, make all the parts, piece it together. So that part kind of interests me. Also, obviously, huge Lego fan. So the ability for people to not only make Lego accessories, but also people to take the design of Legos and then make them adult sized. So they'll make like the rounded off knight sword, but for like your hand, and then the helmet, but like the knight helmet that like pitches, it like fits your head and the shield. That kind of stuff is just funny to me. Like it feels like it's just a matter of time, and it feels like sort of this is what the people at Think Geek, when that was a website, this is the kind of stuff that they were making without 3D printers. Like, they were finding companies to make all these cool little video game nerd culture things that they sold. And now with a 3D printer, you can make a lot of that. So I'm like very intrigued by it, and I'm letting the cost come down, and it's super cool.
That's what it feels like to me. It feels like most people are waiting for that S curve for them to become just a little more affordable and a little more user friendly. And then I feel like there's people who are certainly early adopters who have been playing with them for a lot of years now. But those are people who are really good in 3D rendering programs and stuff. We're getting really geeky right now. But so I ask because Adam Savage, who you guys know I won't shut up about, of Mythbusters fame, has recently, he was never anti 3D printing. He just hadn't really explored it yet. He went from 0 3D printers to, I think he has 4 now. And he's built custom cases for the printers, and he's making parts for the new printers with the printers he already has up and running, like hinges and things like that. I read an article, and this was written a lot of years ago, but if you're a middler out there and knows somebody who's getting into this, I've got a few people in mind. Jordan, I'm thinking of you, and a few others. If you're into these 3D printers, let me know. But again, this article a handful of years ago said a couple things, and it started with the guy saying, I use them every day, and here's why you shouldn't buy one. And he wasn't really anti them. He was just like, I love them. I think they're amazing, but here's why the average Joe shouldn't get one. One, coming by the 3D files is a lot harder than you think. A lot of people don't share their designs, or you have to buy them. Or if you don't love the 3D design, you have to modify it, which means you have to know about these 3D programs to go in and modify something that you don't like. Very similar to if you're a graphic designer, typography nerd, when you go buy fonts, you might not love every aspect of the font and you might have to augment it a little bit. Are there free fonts? Yes, there are. Are they trash? A lot of times, yes. You get what you pay for. So that's one. He said the second thing is the filament costs are significant. That's probably gone down, but you're using a lot more filament than you realize. The third thing, he says a lot of people think they're going to like play with stuff and like use it like as functioning components or parts. The stuff's pretty brittle. Like it's not really made to be used. There are some that exist now, but the average at-home consumer 3D printer is not something that you're going to be made to support a lot of weight or be used a lot. It's really more for trinkets and shelf things and stuff like that. And then finally, we've already talked about it. His other main point was the finishing. You get that pixelated look. It looks a little jaggedy, especially if you think of a sphere. As you get to the top of that sphere, the distance that you're going in on each new layer is a lot more than the distance that you're going up. So you're getting this like effect at the very top of spheres where it just looks a bit off, and you have to either do a lot of post-production sanding or use acetone, which is kind of a nasty chemical that you're using to like smooth all that out. So like, and he's like, again, I love them. The technology is amazing. I hope it keeps advancing, and I'm sure that it will. But like right now, we haven't really hit that threshold where like we're really ready for the average person who's never worked in 3D programs to go out and buy one and do all that stuff. So I'm keeping an eye. Like I've heard there's deals that like, hey, Micro Center does a special where you can get the whatever model for like about $250 and you can just start playing with it. And I think it's fascinating. But the ability, somebody just posted that we go to high school with, it was like, I dreamed of a world where I could make my own toys and action figures from my own home, and we're there. Like, you can do that.
I think the other thing that's important to note too, because there's going to be some people inevitably listening to this like, ugh, what does all this mean to me? And like directly, it might not. But here's what's cool. The premise of here's a frame with a moving arm and you feed it a material and it builds something has now been used to pour concrete homes on a really very small, kind of like tiny homes, where they'll basically have an outside frame, and they use essentially a giant 3D printer, but with concrete instead of plastic that melts, and they'll fill in the outside with concrete. I've also seen people use similar premise to make like literally giant Lego, and you build your house out of giant Lego, and they just ship you all the parts. And you're basically using a combination of rods and bricks to literally like build a real house out of essentially giant Lego. So some of that is really cool on the back end as we start to figure out like, what does housing look like in the future in 100 years? You know, if the tiny house trend continues, or what is like, there's some really cool things that people will look at a 3D printer and go, why can't I blow this up and do A, B, C, D, E with it? Or why can't I have a really lightweight vehicle, that's maybe not made of as much metal? What parts can we swap in and out? And what parts can we 3D print? What parts have to be metal? Just if it's just the frame, can we do, can we do rear doors out of plastic with some metal door handles? Can we do, so it's really cool to see what people are doing with it, that down the road, you might not realize that was going to be possible, but kind of came from 3D printing.
When I see people making their own replica Star Wars helmets, I'm like, all right, I'm getting one. I'll figure it out.
I always get so close when I see stuff like that I'm like, I want one. But
you mentioned the Lego Knights helmet, and he did the one where it's the rounded helmet, but the pointy face mask with the holes in it, and then the plume.
Yep.
And it was all of those components to the scale of a human head. Like, We're such dorks.
Huge dork.
Oh,
That's why I said Rizful earlier. So
Rizful.
Rizful, yeah.
Speaking of two guys with a lot of Riz, you guys know that I love. I'm saying you guys like Kendall's still here. He's fine, folks. His power is just out. You know, I've been a fan of the Scissor Bros podcast for the last couple years. This is comedian Jeremiah Watkins, originally from Kansas City. So he's kind of got that Midwestern sort of sentimentality. And Bobby Lee's brother, Steve. Steve is a affable, lazy gamer, skater, socially awkward, but like everything he says is just funny because he's not trying to be. He's tried stand up, but he doesn't really love it. Anyway, they had their podcast, Scissor Bros, and I log in a few weeks ago to watch the new episode, and it says finale.
No.
And my eyes got big, and I was like, is this? I first thought, are they joking? And then I start looking at the comments, and people are saying like, no, this can't be happening. This made my week every week. Are you serious? This can't be true. Is this the Scissor Bros support group? And so I start watching. Sure enough, they're like, this has been a blast. Nothing bad happened. We're still great friends. This is just kind of like this chapter is done for us. And so many thoughts started flying through my head. And this is me externalizing it now for the first time. One of the comments I saw that was hilarious is like, I'm surprised Jeremiah got Steve to do anything for this long because of how lazy he is. And it's hard. He's always late. It's hard for him to commit to things. He's not consistent or disciplined with anything. And so that's kind of one of the reasons. He's like, it was just taking such a toll on me. This is Steve talking, to do anything that consistently when I stay up until 4 a.m. playing video games and need to be to Jeremiah's house at a reasonable time the following morning. It's just not, anyway. And so the fun, it started becoming less fun, and it started just weighing on him. And then he was feeling guilty because he knew he was kind of letting the rest of the crew down because they had a producer. Then I started thinking, because this is only their 147th episode. This is our 241st episode. And then I started thinking, like, this is like an end of call it an experiment, call it just like something that you just enjoyed while it lasted. Some of the comments were saying, don't be sad that it's over, be glad that it ever existed. Like things like that. Then I'm thinking about like, when will we button this thing up? Right? Like, when will we decide, hey, you know what? It's just, for whatever reason, it's just too much, or it's just not there. The value's not there for us anymore. And then this is the last thing. Then they play a montage at the end, set to music with slow motion moments from the show. This show has such a cult following. They've taken the show on the road, and crowds show up all over the US to come with all the little inside jokes and do the little scissors in the crowd. And it's just like, they said they meant for it to be like a cross between Jackass and Pee-wee's Playhouse. Like they wanted it to feel like a Saturday morning show for adults. So it was just silly. And then the montage sent me, man. I had my eyes started welling. I'm like, it's the end of an era. So anyway, I couldn't believe it. So I guess farewell, Scissor Bros. That was so fun. I had some fan art that I sent them that they ended up sharing, and yeah, I just can't believe it's over. I just needed to work through that. It felt tangential and relevant to our podcast and what we've been doing with this experiment. But so now the YouTube channel is a totally different thing under Jeremiah's, as a part of what he's doing. So Jeremiah still runs it, but it's now with trailer trailer trash Tammy. You've probably seen clips of her on different things, and so and a third person. So they've changed the name of the channel. They still have all the backed episodes of Scissor Bros in a playlist, but now it's a whole new name, a whole new thing, and a whole new. Oh, I don't know how to feel.
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question about this show, if we hadn't planned the first, the first main arc of this show was 500 episodes. We already had that planned. So I think we've got at least till then to start thinking about whether we should begin to wind it down, so that's it. So the 500, so to answer the question for our fans and super fans, we've got at least a 500 episode story arc planned, and we're about halfway through.
We're still in season 1, folks.
This is we are gonna get syndication one way or the other, and so we at least have to finish the arc for you. You all know, as I've discussed many times, how I hate shows being canceled early, and I haven't even tried to start being funny yet, is the thing. So I'm gonna start that soon because that's hard. And as long as Kendall's power doesn't go out every week, then he'll be able to hang along too. That is sad though, because I know you have several podcasts that you follow religiously. Some that you are what's the Patreon for?
Yeah.
You like support them that way, which is awesome.
There was a very small piece of me that was like, oh, I just got an hour a week.
That's probably the way to think about it.
Because I'm watching too many dang podcasts week in, week out.
I mean, at some point, you probably felt similarly when you like turned off WWE for a while. Like, oh, I got so much time back.
Oh, yeah. You had SmackDown, you had Raw, and then you had the occasional. Yeah. I hear even Pete and Sebastian joke with each other about if we don't start getting more traction, we're shutting this thing down. And I think they're huge, right? It's all relative, but they're like, we've not had one viral moment in all these years of doing this. Like, what do we got to do to get you people to share this thing?
Yeah.
It's funny. So then it's like, are we still in the ramp up of podcasts? Is that starting to go down, do we think? I hear that there's still, like, people are still creating them. Like, they just started a Curb Your Enthusiasm watch podcast, like the Office ladies. They're still starting them.
Yeah. I think there's going to be tons. I think I think all of them will have to, that aren't already out, all the new ones will have to find more of a niche. Like, we're going to comedically watch through this series, or we're going to do a very serious political analysis on the West Wing, or we're going to, not that they have to be based on a show, but you know what I mean? Like, we're going to do specifically, we're going to do a 200-part episode on the life of Vladimir Putin in 5 to 10 minute chunks or whatever. So I think podcasts that aren't already out and up and running are going to have to find a niche and like just appeal to that small base. Because I think the thing that, not that we deserve to have a podcast and celebrities don't, but it's so easy to turn a camera on and a mic on for a celebrity and for them to get thousands of listens and downloads and sponsors and a bunch of that right away. And that's fine. They can do whatever they want. But like, I feel like we've earned every inch kind of thing. Like, we're the last of the 7th round draft pick. Nobody knows. We're the Brock Purdy. We're Mr. Irrelevant. Like, we've earned every inch of this. No one's going to take us seriously ever until we do something huge. But that doesn't mean that the quality of the work isn't good. It doesn't mean that we haven't like put out some legitimately great freaking content, because we've discussed it many times, and not to toot our own horn, we've also listened to tons of episodes of different podcasts and shows, and not that they're bad, but I mean, we can listen to that and go, yeah, we feel like we're putting out as good of content as Not literally every week. We're not saying everything is going diamond, right?
They're not all bangers.
They're not all bangers, but like we certainly are putting out some very good content over the years in 240 plus episodes.
Well, and it all depends on what your metrics of success are. We've said this before. We usually say this in one of our milestone recap conversations, and we'll get off of this because I know it's too inside baseball for some. But it's like, if our goal is to just hang out, have fun, have a different creative outlet, and occasionally interview some really interesting people, then we're freaking doing it.
We did it.
And to that end, I won't get into it, but I was at a really big leadership 3-day leadership retreat summit workshop thing where they had a outside consultancy, leadership guru, performance guru folks come in. This is a super, thank you for keeping me honest. They brought in these leadership coaches. And the leadership coaches have an interesting model. They follow real life adventurers, people who have summited Mount Everest, who have swam around the island of Phuket for like days on end without stopping. And they record video segments of these adventurers doing adventures. Then they use those videos, splice them up, and create sort of choose your own path leadership retreats for people. And it's kind of like you're summiting Everest and somebody on your team broke their ankle. What are you going to do? Stop the video. And then you're in a table of maybe 8 people and you're like, okay, what are our values for our team? Is it we all summit or nobody summits? Or is it we understand that things are going to happen. Some people may have to sacrifice their oxygen tanks and turn back. Like what's your value system for your table? And it teaches you decision-making and leadership. And then it's like, what have you decided? 3, 2, 1. And then you give your answer. And then they resume the video based on your decision. So real footage of real life adventures. It's called Explore Performance. Check them out. One of the guys has agreed to come onto our podcast. He's been to the summit of Mount Everest, and we're going to have him on the show. So stay tuned. It's happening. It's a verbal agreement. It's not binding, but it seems like it's going to happen. So anyway,
unless he knows Ohio law, that's a verbal agreement is binding in the state of Ohio.
I say all that to say, stay tuned. There are still more good things coming for From the Middle, and we just have a lot of fun hanging out, and we hope you enjoy listening.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what the right answer always is in the Everest videos. It's pick up your poop. Because the guides are saying that the mountain stinks and too many people are leaving their poop on the mountain. And so the right answer is always pick up your poop first and then resume your decision making. So there you go. Keep Mount Everest clean.
That was not a part of their content, but I'm sure it's important.
Ask the tour guides. It's not a joke. That's a real thing. You can Google it.
Couple quick things I'm watching. Let's move off of Poopy Mountain. I watched the Holdovers. It got a lot of buzz during the
Paul Giamatti, right?
Paul Giamatti, yeah. The premise is essentially that Paul Giamatti, he is at boarding school, and he's sort of a hated teacher at the boarding school. He's a lonely guy. And so he, during the holidays, usually stays over on campus. And there are a few students each year who don't have families to go back to and need to stay at the school. And so he ends up being in charge of the holdovers, the people who didn't go home for the holidays.
Got it.
It's dry wit. It is dark humor. It is endearing. I got emotional. The music was great. Paul Giamatti's awesome. I highly recommend the Holdovers. Definitely go check it out. Also, finally watched Barbie. You watched it, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So like, I don't remember your review. I feel like at first when it was making fun of itself, I was totally on board. I loved the first 20, 30 minutes when they were making fun of it. It was self-aware. They're making fun of it.
Yeah.
Then it felt like they got comedically preachy. I never felt like they were being really preachy about the patriarchy. I feel like they were making fun of the patriarchy. Then it felt like it got heavy-handed, actually preachy. But then I was like, wait, are we still in jokey preachy? Or are you now really trying to be subversive and like, did I use that word right? And make real points at me? And now I'm not sure. And then I got confused. But overall, it was fine.
Yeah. I think that unlike some of the audience, some minorities in the audience are small. I don't mean minorities racially. I mean small percentages of the audience who might have felt like it was saying men are bad. I felt like, generally speaking, the movie fell in line with what Barbie has always been about, which isn't anti-man but pro-girl.
For
Barbie
sure.
Barbie can be anything. Barbie can be an astronaut or a lifeguard or a senator or a
And
teacher,
saying one thing isn't saying that the other thing is bad. You're just saying this
right,
can be
exactly.
true. It's
Yeah.
not a
So,
zero-sum game.
but I feel like because the tone of the movie does change, people can read into whatever they want there. I don't think it was an inherently like anti anybody movie, but I understand if people watched it that way. I thought it was fine. I didn't love it. I thought it was fine. I thought everyone in it was good. I mean, at minimum did a good job. And so I thought it was fine. I understand it's not for kids at all. Obviously, if you haven't seen Barbie yet, don't show it to small children. It's really, it almost feels a little bit like Turning Red when that came out on Disney Plus. It feels more like a teenage girl up to mom movie, like a movie you'd sit and watch, like two adult women would watch together, adult mom and daughter, teenage daughter, adult mom. It feels more like that audience than throw the Barbie cartoon on for the 6-year-old. So
I was reading some things after, and they're like, it really wasn't about the little girl in the
Yeah.
movie. It was about America Ferrara,
right.
the people who are now moms who played with Barbie, and whatever your silly childhood dream was, you don't have to let that die, was the main message.
Yep.
And then there's all this stuff peppered in about the patriarchy and blah blah blah. But like the speech that she gives about women, you're not allowed to be this, and then they ask you to be this, and then when you try to go to be that, they say you're being too this. And if you're a boss, you can't be too too much of a leader, because then they say you're, but if you're not, it's, so that was like a beautiful, that whole
Like
speech,
a man is assertive, a woman is calculating, or something like that.
that
Like,
whole speech that she gives, I'm like, that was worth the price of admission right there. That was very cool. And I am a white man, and so I cannot appreciate all the things that women of any color, creed, whatever have to go through. But that felt very authentic and honest and cool. And then the rest was just silly and fun. But then I did get confused toward the back end. I'm like, wait, what am I supposed to be offended right now? Or am I supposed to just be still along for the ride? And it's just fun and cute.
well,
So,
much like the Lego movie is very silly until the very end when Will Ferrell's then you're dealing with like, spending time with your kids, and you take things too seriously, and you have to have fun while you can, and you can't. There's whole other layer to Lego
yeah.
movie. Like, it's freaking
That's just it. I forgot which layer we were in.
Yeah.
I feel like we were kind of in one for a while, and I was there for it, and then I was like, now I'm on my heels a little bit because I'm not. Anyway, what are you watching?
A couple things. A while back, I mentioned a movie called Fisherman's Friends, I think on Netflix. And sometimes I watch movies and I'll tell you all when I don't like them. And sometimes I'll say it was nice. And if you want just a nice, easy to watch movie that's not going to change your life, but you're not going to hate it, go check out Bank of Dave. on Netflix. You can root for the little guy. It's a nice movie. So I personally
Saw the trailer.
I
Yeah.
like little slice of life movies that take place in the UK because that culture has always been a draw to me. And so Bank of Dave is a really nice little slice of life movie.
Based
Loosely
on real life experiences.
loosely based on real events. You're rooting for the little guy. There's nothing dark or heavy. It's not like scary at all. It's a really nice, I would call it dramedy. And check out Bank of Dave. Also, watch the first season of Percy Jackson on Disney Plus, which got renewed. Great, way better than the movies. Really, really good. Felt a lot like Harry Potter meets Greek mythology in a really good way. And I would say like mid to older teenagers would be good. If Harry Potter's too scary, don't let them watch this. But if they're okay with Harry Potter, so good. Such a good first season. Really, really strong. All the acting was great. It felt movie level. It didn't feel like Disney built this as a series. It felt like film quality, movie theater quality show at like 8 or 10 episodes. So
people who I know read the books said that they were very excited for this series to come out and that it hopefully was going to be, I'm quoting them, hopefully was going to be way better than those movies.
Yeah, movies weren't great. I never read the books, to be clear. I thought the movies were fine. I thought this show was very good. So this is the kind of stuff that we've watched on Disney. It's like Mandalorian and or Percy Jackson, like good quality, well-made, great series for Disney Plus.
Nice.
So if Harry Potter with Greek mythology sounds interesting to you, go check out Percy Jackson. And then the Marvels finally hit Disney Plus from November. I hadn't seen it yet. If you haven't watched like WandaVision and Loki and some of that stuff, and you feel like I don't know if I can watch the Marvels, you can go watch the Marvels. If you really want, hop on YouTube and you can probably search what do I need to know to watch the Marvels, and there will probably be a video that will get you there in 5 minutes. It's really a continuation of it feels like more of a continuation of the show Miss Marvel than it's actually feels like a Captain Marvel 2. But very nice and light, very fun. Felt a lot like like the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies feel very youthful and light and kind of silly and fun. That it's not the best Marvel movie, but it's definitely a fun one. It's easy to watch. It's like an hour and 40 minutes, so you're not committing like a 2.5 hour long thing. So check that out. I'm still watching Masters of the Air. It's still on, still loving it. Go check out Masters of the Air on Apple TV Plus. I've started killing. I don't remember the title, Killers of the Falling Moon or whatever.
Flower.
At no point watching Lord of the Rings did I ever think this really shouldn't be 3.5 hours. It should be an hour and 45 minutes. But I understood people who said that, and I understand it again. And I'm going to make myself finish it, but it did not need to be a 3.5 hour long movie.
I will never forget Jeremy Kester, friend of the show, saying on this podcast, sometimes it's a question of portion. Some things that are books could have been a TED Talk. Some things that are movies should have been a 30-minute show or a YouTube movie. And some 3.5 hour movies should have really been an hour and 25 minutes.
And look, I'll tell you why I'm going to finish it. Because history is important. White people treated Native Americans poorly. And we shouldn't forget about the worst things that have happened in history. I'm just saying it didn't need to be 3.5 hours to tell the story. So I'm gonna finish it because I think the stories are important. But some people sometimes in Hollywood they get really excited about seeing themselves on screen for that long. And they didn't need to. Great acting, don't get me wrong. Great acting.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say like Martin Scorsese, like
And-
Leonardo DiCaprio, De Niro.
Oh yeah, De Niro. Lily Gladstone plays the main kind of Native American character.
Jesse Plemons is great.
Great acting, but like again, I don't need 3.5 hours of talking when a lot of the talking is the same talking. Like it's the same conversations kind of over and over.
A lot of people were talking about the cinematic experience. Like, how do you plan for that? You can't have a drink during that movie. Like,
yeah,
and then they were like, well, there needs to be an intermission. And they're like, no, you sit for the whole thing or you don't come at all. Like, if you need an intermission for a movie, you're going to lose some people.
Yeah, and I talked about this a little bit with Dunkirk. So like Dunkirk was very heavy and didn't really. I gave one or two very brief jumps back to the UK where the colors were lighter and the visuals were lighter, and it wasn't pounding music with the threat of German planes attacking you at any minute. It had a couple breaks in that movie, and it was kind of hard to watch. Although I liked it a lot, it was kind of hard to watch because of what it was. This movie's like that. There's no breaks. You don't get kids playing in a field of daisies for 5 minutes, just to break the tension. It's just tension. It's 3.5 hours of tension. Now, maybe in the last 45 minutes I've got left, maybe they're going to remedy some of that, and maybe the ending will blow me away. But I'm just saying, I'll amend my response later if I need to.
Sure.
But that's how I feel.
We'll come back to you on that.
That's what I'm watching.
Well, Kendall, our brother, we're sorry that we lost you there earlier on this one. This has been fun catching up and weighing in on all things entertainment related and a little bit of 3D printing. My brother, thanks for hanging out. Middlers, thanks for hanging out. Please listen, somewhat serious. Please comment below anything, even the word garbage. Go ahead, because the algorithm likes comments. So comment. If you're listening on a streamer, podcast streamer, 5-star, thumbs up, all the things. We would really, really, really appreciate it. Interact. It's our favorite thing. Give us your thoughts on any or all of these things. How can you do that? We have a LinkTree link. It's in the description of every single episode. That LinkTree link will take you to every single place, method, medium, where and how you can interact with us. We love texts and voicemails. Those are probably our favorite. We also get down with email. So if you want to just shoot us an email, either anonymous or anonymous, you can do that. Those would be two great ways. And if you feel like throwing us a few bucks, we do have a tip jar. All of those proceeds go right back into the show. We do not buy Jordans or cowboy hats with those. It just goes back into the show, gets us some better equipment for those times when we are in person, and lets us do some other things marketing wise that we might not do otherwise, like stickers and hats and shirts and things like that some of you have been asking for. So please do those things. That would really, really help. We appreciate you. We love you all. And we will see you all next Wednesday for the next episode of From the Middle. Bye.